For joining. I guess I'm lucky enough to be one of the first speakers back at Develop, which is great. It's great that it's going to be such a busy week considering the last couple of years we've all had. I'm going to be giving a talk about social integration when bringing games to Asia, but a lot of this stuff will apply to any region in the world. We'll have similar social needs when it comes to gaming, and gamers enjoy using social features in similar ways. But I'm going to try and focus on Asia, and particularly China, given the company that I work for. So I'd like to break this talk into about roughly 4 sections, just to sort of set the scene, give an introduction to who I am, why I'm talking to you, and maybe give a little bit of the perspective as to where all my this information comes from. I'm not technically orientated. I'm very much from a business development background. I'm a passionate gamer. I've been in games for about 12, 13 years, and I myself started actually by way of Japanese back in when I worked for Nintendo, and I've slowly worked my way across various sectors of the games industry. And now I've been with Tencent Cloud for about 18 months or so. And joined during the pandemic, which is an experience in itself. But I have, as you can see, worked for a number of Asian companies, and hopefully that sort of perspective can come through in this talk. So feel free to look me up on LinkedIn. These are my passions. Games as an art form. I'm a real advocate for games as an art form. Prizes here if you can name all 4. But I've always been an advocate that games are a form of art and not just social pleasure, which is, my family still needs some convincing on that. But and immersive storytelling, I'm a huge fan of open world RPG games that you can really lose yourself in. Red Dead Redemption 2 is my lockdown game, just hugely enjoyable, and many more games coming out that will offer this immersive storytelling experience. And immersive storytelling is a kind of a type of game that does offer the opportunity to have social features integrated, but I'll be focusing on a slightly different type of game in this talk. This is stuff I hate: loot boxes, hyper monetization, let's say, and I think there's a balance that needs addressing in the industry. I'm a huge advocate for fair gameplay and fair monetization. So let's start with, what is Tencent Cloud? You'd be all forgiven for not knowing what Tencent Cloud is. If I took the cloud bit off, I guess most of you know who Tencent is. We are a games company at our heart, and Tencent Cloud provides cloud services to the games industry, to many different industries, actually. I just happen to focus on games, and we are a growing team in Europe based out of Amsterdam. We're currently about the 6th largest infrastructure as a service provider in the world, over 1 million servers. All those stats speak for themselves, but we have a huge extended global presence, still very much a Chinese company, but we are starting to internationalize. We have offices on the west coast of the US, as I say, an office in Amsterdam, and a growing data center footprint across the globe. And that will help us in the next 5 to 10 years to serve the games industry from a number of different ways that I'll present. This is roughly our infrastructure. You can see quite heavily weighted on the China region, Asian region, but this is changing. We've got 70 availability zones across the globe, 26 regions. We're opening up new data centers in the Middle East and beyond. Areas where we don't have a data center footprint are served by way of a partner network. And one of the things I like about the industry as a whole is that we're not necessarily purely competitive. We're happy to work with partners. We do have partnerships with AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, etc. In fact, our biggest investment to date, Supercell, is a glowing example of that, where we work with our cloud provider partners to provide a really good quality end user experience. And if you know nothing about cloud at all, we do our job if you don't know anything about us, because the end user experience is smooth, there's no lag, there's no latency. And if you don't know we exist, we're happy. What we do best, all these different areas that Tencent Cloud works in, testing, security, ops, we're world-leading anti-DDoS provider. Obviously, we have a global infrastructure, network acceleration. We have workaround solutions to some of the regional challenges that game companies experience. And of course, on the innovative side, when we're talking about metaverse, Web3, and cloud gaming, which is kind of yet to find its feet. But the last one there is what we're here to talk about today, the social side. And, you know, because Tencent knows games so well, because of our dominance, let's say, in the China market, with 70% of China games being on Tencent Cloud, because of all our publishing portfolio here with PUBG, Mobile, League of Legends, etc., either self-published or by way of acquisition and investment. This is the landscape that we've built up. And Tencent really knows games. Tencent knows games because of our partner network. And this is a sort of a very succinct global view. It goes much deeper than this, but you'll see familiar names here. You'll know about our deal to acquire Sumo Digital last year, as well as our majority stakes in companies like Supercell, Riot, etc. But we have a global partner network. And this really enables us to use our cloud infrastructure against that and offer all these companies enhanced infrastructure support, publishing, marketing support. Tencent is a company of almost 100,000 employees. The reach that a developer can get within Tencent just by coming to us is pretty good. Tencent is connected, and I want to set the scene a little bit here. On the social side, actually, QQ was around the year before Facebook, the first PC messaging service. And alongside Tencent Games, the guys that dominate all the headlines with mergers, acquisitions, etc., those guys that team is growing in Europe. And our GME, our voice chat solution, I'll talk about in a second, alongside WeChat. I don't know if anyone has a WeChat account, but that is our primary communication method inside the company. It's a platform that most Chinese people have on their phone. It's something you use to order a taxi, pay for a meal, buy cinema tickets, etc., etc. So that's already integrated into people's lives, and WeChat and other social networks that are demographically appropriate, it makes sense to integrate those social solutions into games. So this is the kind of connected ecosystem that Tencent offers. And the game-focused social feature or social solution that we offer is something called Game Multimedia Engine, which is an end-to-end, high-quality, low-cost, cloud-based voice chat solution that is currently integrated into Sharkmob's latest release, Blood Hunt. I don't know if anyone's played that. It's an open-world vampire battle RPG. Out on Steam and PS5. GME is integrated in that. It gives really high quality, low latency, voice-based and location-based in-game chat. That is something that we offer that is really innovative product, and I won't go into too much detail here. All the feature information is available through our website, but it offers a lot of features that that Chinese gamers view as important in their gameplay, through to voice-changing features, specific features for MOBA games, which are very popular, karaoke-led features, etc. And why are we doing this? Well, in-game voice chat is kind of come a long way from where we had originally chat apps, inbuilt voice features, and then kind of around Web 2.5, I guess, 3D voice chat, into what everyone's talking about at the moment, which is Web3, metaverse type conversation. I'm not even going to go there because we don't have time. But this idea of immersive interaction is going to become more and more important as things are now, let alone when we hit Web3 and move forward, and who knows what the future holds. But that immersive interaction is going to become more and more important, and integrating these social features, native social features, are going to become extremely crucial when we're talking about engagement, retention of particularly mobile gamers. All our resources available through the website. We are offering a slightly more account managed approach, I suppose, compared to other people in this space. We're trying to focus on our innovation and where we differentiate ourselves from other providers. But whilst we're talking about voice chat and social features, it's important to recognize our ethical responsibilities. So when you're talking about voice changing capabilities, the ability to sound like Lolita in a game, or for a 40-year-old man to sound like a 10-year-old girl, we recognize that there are ethical responsibilities here. And this is a bit of an issue that hasn't been tackled yet. I'll come on to it again slightly later on. It hasn't properly been tackled. Even text-based challenges in terms of reining in toxic behavior in game hasn't really been attacked yet, hasn't really been solved, I should say. So when we're talking about protection of minors, smart monitoring, voice changing, when we're talking about social integration into games, these ethical responsibilities are really, really important. Cyberbullying, online gossiping, threats are all happening across every social media network. They're also happening in-game if in-game voice chat is offered. And this is really crucial because nowadays I feel gamers are quite spoilt with their choice of games that they have. They're very easy to drop, particularly a free-to-play game. You can just close it down and delete it and try something else. So for particularly mobile-focused games where you might want to bring these games to Asia, it's important that you recognize people are quite fickle. Gamers can be quite fickle, and they will drop a game and delete it as soon as they've had enough or have a bad experience. And there's a couple of different companies at the moment working in this space. Tencent is as well, but the leaders, I would say, would be Intel. They have an AI-based tool in partnership with a company called Spirit AI, who actually I used to work for. Their tool called Ally is being developed to, I think actually Intel have rebranded it to Bleep, but the original tool is by Spirit AI. They are looking to use AI to automatically eliminate toxic behavior on any social media platform. And this is integrated into the, by way of SDK. This is something that is text-based. And as I said before, a voice chat elimination of toxicity is something that is badly needed in mobile social games. This is very much on our radar. Google's trying to do something with Perspective and Jigsaw. This is a really exciting area, actually, because at the moment, you may have all experienced, particularly on normal social media, not game-related, that the reporting of abuse, slurs, homophobia, etc., is very much a proactive approach. It asks you to report it. And what we're looking to have happen as a gamer experience is actually it's just eliminated automatically by way of AI, machine learning over time, to reduce this toxicity online, because this is going to be a huge problem as we go into these kind of virtual worlds in the next 5 or 10 years. And it's hugely important in China and the rest of Asia. They are investing, I know that Tencent is investing a huge amount of money and resources into Web3. And that is kind of, for us at the moment, at least next gen capabilities. So again, just setting up the next few slides. Mobile right now, I think everybody appreciates that mobile is still king. Mobile revenue, particularly over the pandemic, increased 2 or 3-fold compared to other platforms. It's accessible, it's pick up and play. A lot of people started playing mobile games without needing any extra equipment during the pandemic. You just pick up your phone, download something, try it out. And one of the reasons it was so successful in China was because of the social integrations. We're talking native games. Cloud gaming, I just want to kind of put this to one side. We're talking about cloud for gaming, not cloud gaming. And sometimes described as a Swiss Army knife approach, where there are some tools that simply aren't needed. So this approach is purely native. We're talking about having a really good quality native mobile gaming experience with native features. Now let's focus a little bit more on China. I think there's a wealth of information out on the internet about how to so-called crack the market. Different people have different experiences. I think a lot of the news at the moment is perhaps on the negative side, around the challenges involved, around some of the winding roads that you have to go down in order to approach not just the China market, but also other markets as well. Important to remember, I suppose, as well, that China is kind of a market in its own. Bunching together all of the markets in Asia is rather like what some people do for Europe. They are an individual market with their own challenges. You will no doubt need a China version of your game. But recommendations, in my experience, would be to keep it small. Gamers tend to play shorter sessions on lunch breaks and things. Make it easy to customize. Chinese gamers love customization. They love having things that other people don't have. Be aware of these huge choice of app marketplaces. And there are solutions out there. I think Unity has a solution where you can publish to multiple Android app marketplaces at the click of a button. But be aware that you can have hundreds of app stores. We find it very easy. I find it very easy on iOS. One app store, one choice. And in a Chinese-friendly way, like I say, it has to be branded for the China market, be that content or social demographic. Fruit Ninja is a good example where they partnered with a company called iDream Sky for a very, very localized version, localized language, localized experience. But more importantly, they integrated Tencent's WeChat solution into their game. You didn't need to build a fresh in-game community. You just engaged with the community that's already in your life through WeChat. You integrate that into the game and off you go. So that was a really good example where it worked quite well. Brand recognition matters to Chinese gamers. And I appreciate I've now focused in on China. This is the case for many other Asian countries as well. Chinese gamers like buying from familiar brands, and Tencent has a number of partnerships for things like in-app items that are branded with some of our retail partners, for example. One of the benefits of Tencent having many different divisions and focuses. Art style, you don't need me to tell you that the art style can be quite different across markets and regions. Cute characters, stylized art, big eyes. I know from my extensive period of time in Japan that the art style is crucial into engaging an audience. They do still have an interest in foreign games, much as we might do in a JRPG or something, but the art style is crucial for that initial interest, let's say. And as I touched on just now, translation. English is not widely spoken. It needs to be localized. But it's not just the language that needs localizing, it's a cultural localization as well. Content, you need to be aware of news, you need to be aware of topical issues, politics, things like that, all need due consideration, not just the language. So these are some success cases. I mentioned Fruit Ninja, but also Temple Run, Plants v Zombies 2. There are success cases, and I hope one of the takeaways from this talk is that, yes, some of the access to China and other Asian markets is difficult. There are administrative processes. There are lots of challenges, licenses to be applied for. You may need to partner locally, but the rewards are there. And really, we do offer our own one-stop China Cloud Enterprise solution where we will help you navigate some of these challenges, some of these restrictions that the government is implementing into restricted time spent online in games, restricted content. But the good news is that more and more games are being approved. I think the government any government likes economic growth. They appreciate that the games industry in China does need that support. I wanted to touch on this, essentially three ways to enter the Chinese market. You can either establish a legal entity, partner with a local company, or deploy servers in Hong Kong and use some of our workaround solutions. So there are challenges to each one, advantages and disadvantages, red tape, of course. But the fact is, what you see on the surface is really nothing compared to the market that is actually waiting for you. Chinese gamers are no different from us. They're not a different type of person. They're young people. They love games. They love playing with their friends. They love engaging with their friends. They love being able to chat with their friends in game. And they love that experience to be really smooth, integrated, low latency, and high quality. We all have busy lives. They want the 15, 20 minutes they have on their lunch break to be high quality, immersive, and social. So the market size beneath the surface, I think even 10 years ago, there were 750 million players. using some sort of WeChat integrated feature in-game. So good news in terms of the needs of social mobile games in Asia. The good, well, data in China is the 11th cheapest in the world. And we have other markets like India and Israel, both very heavy mobile markets. There's a reason why some of the mobile games out there are doing really well. Data is cheap, so people spend more money in a game. And that's a really crucial part. So if you're looking to pick a market or capitalize on a particular game region, look at the data. Literally look at the data. How much it costs really makes a difference to people. And broadband. This is from last year. I don't know if it's changed. I wouldn't have thought it's changed that much. I think this data is 6 months old or so. China has got the 5th fastest internet speed. And we're talking about not just sitting at home on your sofa playing internet. We're talking about being able to play games smoothly with a similar experience above ground than you would on the tube, with absolutely no lag, with no transition between, I better come out the game and then log on to Virgin Wi-Fi and etc. They experience kind of the next step of what we do. Technologically advanced. Tencent is a company that partners with local telecommunications companies in China and offers this experience where whether you're above ground, below ground, on a plane, whatever, you have a seamless experience. And that's really important when you've got 90% plus of gamers preferring to interact with others. And this stat alone should allow you to look into native quality social integration into mobile games for China. And again, over 90% use built-in voice chat. Some other notes from the Chinese market: they prefer homegrown games over Western brands. That is changing slightly when we're talking about PC. A lot of people are using Steam via VPN, for example, and experiencing some different content. But make your content native. Make it familiar. Make it something that people can relate to culturally, socially, etc. So why should you spend all this extra time, money, resources, blood, sweat, and tears? Well, mobile is a slightly different beast. Second screening in mobile gaming, as you probably all know, doesn't work as well as it does on PC platforms. When I play my PS5, I might have my iPad to the side. I might have a PC showing something else, something strategic, or I might even be running a YouTube video on another device. It's not particularly possible with mobile gaming. So I would encourage every developer to focus on the native integration of social features. Text-based voice chat can be distracting. We encourage mobile game developers to use solutions like our GME solution to have voice chat, even with phones the size they are, even with all the different numbers of different devices, Android devices that are in the market in Asian countries. They're never going to be big enough to fully have a really good quality second screen experience. And the other thing I want to point out is it's not ideal having multiple open apps open just from a performance point of view, your CPU, memory, battery, etc. And the advantages are in terms of retention, engagement, continuity, but you can build a really good quality in-game community when these features are fully integrated. So what are the motivation for most people to play these mobile games? You know, during COVID, a lot of people were turning to this kind of hobby, this kind of interaction. Most people, I think in China, I would be right in saying, are still experiencing some form of COVID restriction. The retention rates, the engagement rates are still sky high because people are still spending a lot of time at home. So my point there is, again, look at what's going on from a topical point of view, what's going on in the world, what's going on politically. A lot of gamers really want to engage with their friends whilst experiencing some form of COVID restrictions. And that goes without saying, that actually applies across the globe. So those are some of the good things, the good points, the fact that China is a huge market, the fact that there are really good quality native social integration options. So some of the bad, we don't ignore the fact that China is experiencing something of an online gaming crackdown, but the important thing I would say would be to work with it. What are the restrictions? Look at it from the other direction. Okay, well, if they can only play 2 hours on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, how can we best serve them? How can they have a great experience in those few hours that they are allowed to play under the age of 11? The importance of gaming in Asian markets, and this doesn't necessarily apply just to China. It actually maintains social stability, gives people a focus, it engages people. WeChat, as I said before, is not just a chat app, it's actually a platform in its own right. And the type of experience you'll have working with your Chinese community will be largely positive with the investment and with the effort, I suppose, of making a Chinese version of your game for that particular market. Some of the negatives, we can't avoid them, so we might as well address them. The news in the last couple of years have been sometimes negative, but the fact of the matter is that people in China spend money on games. It's a form of socialization, and as a human need, that will never go away. They can be connected to family and friends, but it's actually goes slightly deeper than that. And I would say it applies, in my experience, to more than one Asian market than China. The gaming world is a bit fairer than the real world. This is the perspective that some Chinese gamers have. Social activities in the gaming world are a little bit more comfortable than in the real world. People want to be in those worlds. They want to be socializing. Social anxiety, cultural differences, COVID, all of these issues have led us to a point where games can actually offer something for the good. These headlines you'll see most weeks, foreign developers having trouble accessing China. Work with a partner. Work with a partner. And I'll show you a couple of examples later where true long-term investment by a mobile developer or publisher working with a local partner has led to some huge success. So how do we leverage social? Gamers have started figuring out that actually this community online is really central to their lives. And I like that picture of those two kids playing on the bench. It's part of kids' lives now. They want to be having these experiences. Online gaming experiences become a social lifeline for a lot of us, be it in the West or in Asian markets. But let's split it into two separate options. Either you integrate these social networks and you have large growth and you have, relevant social networks based on the user's demographic. You're going to have a really good experience because the integrated social network is doing the legwork. Building an in-game community is another option, but do you want to do that for every game that you have? Probably not. You want to choose your solution, choose your integration based on the user demographic, based on the type of game it is, based on what people are wanting. Do people want an in-game community or do they want to just simply connect with their WeChat friends? These are examples of the success cases. Gardenscapes by Playrix, Mini Clips 8-Ball Pool, Clash of Clans, which of course comes from Supercell, one of our invested companies, and Among Us. All these games have worked well in the Chinese market. And all games have come through inventive local collaboration. They've come through investment, and they certainly haven't come through quick wins. All four of these games have had a predecessor that didn't necessarily work. And one area that Tencent kind of focuses on is embracing this recent trend for AAA experiences on mobile. And this is, again, an example where heavy investment into local market has worked. Call of Duty Mobile, PUBG Mobile, both Tencent published titles, have kind of opened the door to say, these AAA experiences that you're having at home on console and PC, they're possible on mobile. And Tencent Cloud supports those titles from a cloud infrastructure point of view, Our publishing team supports them from a marketing, social point of view, and they work really, really well. They have, as you can see, specific Chinese versions for the market. But this has not just come overnight. This has come as part of their sort of long-term pipeline where they've said, right, this requires this investment. And I think this is even from the last couple of days, the division is now going to mobile as well. So another example of a AAA game heading to mobile. This is the possibility. I don't think this is released in Asian markets yet, but Diablo Immortal, love it or hate it, earned almost $50 million in the first month. So I would encourage every developer, whether you're already on mobile or you're thinking about attacking mobile or you're thinking about doing something slightly different, looking into Chinese markets, this is the bit of the iceberg under the water. This is what happens when you invest and partner and adapt, and you look at the restrictions, embrace them. You can't do anything about them. Put the geopolitics to one side and say, this is the light at the end of the tunnel. And no doubt, Diablo will be having a Chinese version in the next 6 months, much like Tencent is doing. Honor of Kings, if anyone has heard of that title, published by Timmy Studios, will be rolled out to a global audience. And this is the start, I think, of a slightly new trend of actually games coming from China to the global market, rather than just giving a talk now and saying, please, look at China as a potential market. Asian markets have loads of gamers and throwing a load of stats out there. Actually, I see a trend forming where Chinese games will actually be exported to Western markets. That's it. I think slightly ahead of time, but I've got time for some Q&A. Has anyone got any questions they'd like to ask?
I was just going to ask about, obviously you've talked a lot about Asia and kind of the mobile potential in Asia. There's also really high mobile potential in other BRICS economic regions, such as Brazil and India, South Africa, but sometimes they don't necessarily have the same infrastructure that China have around cloud and other internet infrastructures. And I just wonder what you thought about how bigger developers could partner with cloud services or other infrastructure services and governments to tap into those markets as well.
Absolutely. And yeah, those markets shouldn't be ignored. I mean, Brazil, that you mentioned, was a huge gaming market and have recently, last week, hosted their biggest games festival to date, I think Big Festival. I think those markets, if there aren't data centers that can provide the immediate cloud infrastructure, this is where the telcos come in, and the telecommunications company can provide that partner network. This is certainly happening with cloud gaming. Cloud gaming providers like Blacknut, for example, are partnering with Vodafone, T-Mobile, and others to tap into that market where perhaps broadband speeds aren't as good as you would like. You can definitely work with local mobile telco providers to provide that infrastructure. And I think it's almost a case of supply and demand. If the demand grows, then people are going to come in to support that. And certainly that's one thing that Tencent's doing, not just having a partner network in South America, but actually having a native data center footprint there. So things will change. And, we recognize the India mobile market as being huge. You saw there that they're top of the list in terms of low data cost per gigabyte. And we have a data center in Mumbai. We're looking to have another one, I think, within the next 2 years. So I think things look good for those emerging markets, and I'm optimistic. Yeah.
Hi there.
Hi.
I'm Karim from AudioMob, and a quick question for you was, with the Asian market, what in-app or not in-app purchases, what monetization methods are really common over there versus what's not so common?
Yeah, good question. In terms of actual monetization methods, I don't think they differ hugely from European markets. In-app purchases, the beauty of integrating something like WeChat is you can have a native WeChat web page in-app to give you all the information you want. And that offers cross-marketing possibilities. It offers promotion opportunities. The marketing PR side, I don't know too much about personally, but certainly the monetization is a lot easier, to be honest. Chinese gamers spend more in-app than Western gamers. comparing apple for apple, because they're spending more time on mobile. And if the experience is immersive enough, anyone will tell you, look at all the data. If the experience is immersive, if the experience is social, you're going to play the game more. If you play the game more, you're going to spend more. And I think this is where we've seen kind of business models like battle passes come into play, where you're not necessarily spending for a bag of gems. You're actually spending money on a $4.99 per month on a battle pass that gives you another layer to your gameplay. So that's also becoming popular in China, as well as individual in-app purchases. But they're big spenders. If you look at the data, they have large spending capability for social engagements.
Hello.
Hi.
I was wondering if you had any tips for non-integrated community building. So not specifically for mobile. We've got a PC game, and about 20% of the players are Chinese, and we can't speak to them. So we've got a Discord. They can't go in that. They buy the game through Steam, but they can't get on the community section of Steam.
Yeah.
They can't get to Twitter, Facebook, anywhere normally that we go. And we try and set up. We've had a go at setting up some Chinese social accounts, but you need a Chinese mobile number, which is difficult. And the international ones are sort of fiddly. Yes. And we're just wondering if there's anywhere. Let's say you weren't trying to pick up new players, but you just wanted somewhere to point players to go to have a chat that they were allowed to go to. Any ideas on that?
I mean, they have a Chinese version of Twitter. I don't think that offers a groups feature. The obvious direction to go would be WeChat, and then work with a partner on the ground. The partner would be able to set that up for you. I can advise a little bit more afterwards if you'd like. But the WeChat option, you look at the install base, and I don't know how big your game is or your company is, but we're small. I would say partnering is the best, unless you're kind of AAA. Partner, get some advice. We can offer lots of advice. WeChat, Discord equivalents, etc. And also maybe look into how many of your Steam users are using VPN versus not VPN. I don't know if that data is available. If they are using a VPN, that might open a few more possibilities.
I assume they can actually connect to Steam without VPN. There's two sites. There's the site where you buy the game and the site where you chat about it.
Yes.
Which is why you get discussion on the reviews, because the only place China's allowed to post. So you get negative reviews that aren't actually negative. It's like, oh, can you have this?
Yes. No, that setup is challenging, but I again would say that partnering would be the best way to go. And I don't know about your sort of publishing plans, but certainly iDream Sky example there for Fruit Ninja would be a good one to follow, but on a PC base. Might be looking at a second screen approach. Yeah, please do. Anybody else? Yeah, please, if you've got any more questions, feel free to ask later on. So apologies about the hot room. It's even worse up here. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you.